Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to Design Elements and Principles, session 14. I hope everybody's doing well. We're on our way on here, hey? 14, 15, and then everything's due in 16. So week 16, there's like nothing new to learn. We're finishing up. So just want you to know that in advance, and then it closes out, and there'll be a reminder on Blackboard starting next week, just so everybody's on the same page. Make sure you've registered for classes if you haven't registered so far. There are limited spaces. There are limited spaces now. So first come, first serve. Make sure you're registered. Got finished up 12, 13, and then 14. 14. Pattern and your poster final. So we'll talk about pattern today. We'll talk about poster final on Thursday as you work through your computer roughs and you get comments from me and what to change, what to adapt. And then we'll go for one last round before they are due to get them all buttoned up and looking nice. And then we're going to mock them up. So that'll be fun. As always, we do our attendance. We start our attempt, and we know this is about learning about graphic design. What is a mood board used for? Well, a mood board is a place to gather visual inspiration and direction. So what you'll do is you will, if you're working on a big brand or a big, like not let's say like a poster, but say you're working on a big marketing campaign for a company. Sometimes, not always. It depends on the place and time and project. You'll create a mood board, and it will be colors and words and images that help the client understand the feeling you're trying to emote with the project. So say you're doing something for an all-natural soap company. You might have light blues and greens and people like lots of suds and people showering, and you said, words like natural, and you do it in the fonts that you want. So like it conveys to the client like right away, like this is the emotion we want you to feel when we do this design. So you create a mood board. I've done hundreds of mood boards. Yeah, they're fun. They're fun. So make sure you do your attendance. As always, mid-session project review is always open. That's where you can work with me on a one-on-one basis and have your work checked and come and talk to me and be like, how's this looking? Hey, how should I fix this up? I'm really excited about this project. It's always good. It's a perfect way to make sure you're doing excellent and doing it all right and not running into any snags. Tuesday's assignments, as normal, will be the pattern research and the pattern project. Let's talk about pattern. Dun, dun. All right, so we have pattern and repetition. So we have two different things going on here, which is A-okay. And let's get going to them. Let's zero in, and then like we'll talk about them as separates, and then we will kind of talk about them as pairing. So it's repeated elements to create visual interest. That's the best way to say it. Just that very first sentence up here. And we may be like, oh yeah, I know what pattern is, but I think like now once we do it, what happens is it becomes, you start to see them more. And I literally am always looking around and looking at patterns. And I'll talk about it a little bit more. Oh no, I'll just talk about it now. I'm always looking for patterns. And I think I always have, even as a kid, when you're looking, say you're at the doctor's office and you're looking at the floor, or I even do it in this room sometimes, and I'll do it and I think, and you'll see like a little something happening, and it may look like this, but then like by the third tile on the floor, the third carpet tile, you're like, wait, these two look the same. And then you start realizing like, oh, this supposedly random pattern, which is a repeat of a segment. So like if I have this and there's a dot, a dot, a dot, and dot, the pattern would be then here and a dot and a dot and a dot and a dot, and here. This is like a pattern. It repeats over and over and over again. I will say, you can find a pattern in ceiling tiles. You can find patterns everywhere. And I look for them. Like I just, it's just something I like to do, God, do I say it? Like you put away the phone and look at the floor. And it's kind of like, look like, where's that pattern? Like wallpaper, all kinds of things. So it is a decorative design motif. It can be created through repetition of shapes, lines, colors, whatever. Like whatever it may be, not whatever, like I'm just throwing away that comment, but like anything, shapes, lines, colors, every visual element you can think of, you could have photographs. The same photograph over and over and over would create a pattern. The person's face in there, like that's what it is. I'm creating a pattern with a person's face over and over and over. Eyeball. I see maybe eyeball patterns. So it can be very simple. It can be very intricate. Patterns, a lot of people, like we do this is just a standard square pattern. But if you look at wallpaper, we're at the kind of an interlacing pattern where we call it like a never ending pattern. It's still a pattern, but we've developed new ways, like just people I'm going to say over the years, but like all these are known to people that like you can use, like there's a hexagon repeating pattern that looks like a random pattern because it puts we cut some of the elements through some of the sides and then they rejoin, but up here. And so because of the distance and timing, and like not timing, but distance and spacing and orientation of the hexagon, we think like, oh my God, it's like goes on forever. But then if you really look, you're like, okay, this one is here. Oh, it's here. And then it's here. And you're like, how did they do that? It's an interlacing pattern. Like it can go on forever. Now, mind you, like as we're talking, a pattern is always the same until you change it. And what if you change one? So say like that one, square with 4 dots, 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 square with 4 lines, square with 4 dots. And then like we could, can keep going. And then this guy is different. That's called an anomaly. And an anomaly can be used in graphic design as a hierarchical moment where you have a design and then you change it just once and you create an anomaly and it sticks out and people notice it, but it can beautifully work into a design. So that's how we deal with pattern. Repetition. This is just a standardized repeating of design elements within a design to create a continuity. So if I should like design these boards to give myself a drawing space. So say I had a design and it just like say, we'll go back to that soap thing. And so I'm just going to make like soap bubbles. They get smaller as they get up. So this is repetition. It's a soap bubble used many times to help create a mood, help get that idea of soap around. Or we could do like, I don't know, I think, like say we had a brochure and it's 3 pages and we have like a line, like a fancy line, but we use that fancy line everywhere. This is repetition because it's like for something that goes fast. So it's a sharp line, it doesn't really show up with that fat pen, but we use it to make things familiar as we go from here to here, you know, and it may evoke some emotion or something like that, you know, like easy one is, you know, like if we did a checkerboard pattern, you know, and it sets up that design, but this is actually a pattern. I shouldn't have said that. But repeating elements within a design is repetition, and we do that to help kind of create a visual interest. And I like this. It's a visual, reinforces visual connections within a piece. So that's why we do it. I think we end up doing it a lot. I do it a lot. And it's almost subliminal. And I do it with typography. Here it is. Let's look at it. Oh, this side is better. Let's get rid of everything. The Wayback Machine. Pattern. Here's a pattern. Boop. Just this setup. Each page that I designed for these has a bold intro and a bold exit. And then each one, it has this. It has like a header and then a paragraph. And this one, just because this one's different, but you remember like old ones. So it's like a header and a paragraph, a header and a paragraph. Here it's a header, paragraph, paragraph, header, paragraph, paragraph. And then we come to this key aspects part, and I separated it out differently. I didn't bold. I just have these, which are within the design, but it is a pattern. It is, I would say, repetition. This is repetition within the design, because the repetition keeps that visual consistency that we're talking about. And so typography is where you use repetition a lot. If you're doing bullet points, if you're setting text, like you use the same font over and over and over. Why? People remember it, and it makes it easier to read and get the information. Because we're visual communicators. The job that we have is to visually communicate a message that somebody gave us. Somebody wants to sell something. They say, hey, so-and-so, I want you to create something to sell my product, but it needs to be clear, clean, and understandable to everybody. So something we can use is repetition or pattern. Let's break it down a little bit. Visual unity. Patterns and repetition contribute to visual unity by tying different elements in a cohesive manner. Very true, very true. Hierarchy. So hierarchy, again, it's that idea. It's the posters. Think of our posters. Hierarchy. What in hierarchy is number one. The logo is number one. The date is maybe number two. The headliners are number three. And then the paragraph is number four. And then the three pictures is number five. So we have a hierarchy, and we can use hierarchy can be helped with repetition. And then maybe that's the background pattern we use. Or maybe we use lines to help, and we're like using lines to help differentiate each section. But we're going from top is number one as we go down. And then we have these lines in the design that help us. And that's that repetition of something to help break it up and be like, I want you to read the top thing first. Stop, there's a line break. Then the second thing, stop, there's a line break. Third thing, stop, there's a line break. And fourth thing, stop, there's a line break. We'll see some examples that will help that in a little bit. Texture and depth. When we do the presentations, and I know I'm like, I just bust one out in an hour. But if you look through all those old ones, when we started way back 4 months ago in January, holy crap, look at it now. January, there's snow on the ground. That's when we started. And now it's beautiful. It's like 70 or 80 degrees out. How great is that? Shows how time flies. So you can use the patterns to create that texture and depth in the background. All those like pre-made presentations, like a lot of them just have a real mild pattern in the background just to keep things interesting. You can have, again, have a solid blue background. Or let's just say, you know, it worked out better. I could have a pattern of dots. Is this more interesting or is this more interesting? Like this creates some interest, just as long as it doesn't take away from the message, we're fine. If the pattern and that repetition starts to take away from the message, then it's a problem. Then we can't use it. So something to think about. Brand and identity. I'll just switch to this. What are those? It's the Golden Arches. It's McDonald's. Okay. Maybe it's more like that. You know it when you see it. Why? Because they repeat it everywhere. Everywhere. Because they want you to know the second you see this, what do you think of? Right? Switch back to my standard favorite teal. What is that? Do you want me if I can fill it in? The Nike swoosh. Why do we know it? It's everywhere. It is the brand identity. It's not just their logo, but they use it so often. They repeat it. They repeat it so often that we just know it by heart. We get, handbags. You know those fancy handbags? And they always have like the cool, like, you know, like this. That's a pattern. But it's also a brand mark. As soon as you see this, you know, I could do, you know, like anything, like even anything like kind of close to it. You're like, oh, wait, is that the fancy band? I don't know. Is it like something like that? The Louis Vuitton? But they repeat it on their bags. Oh, it makes the bag looks beautiful. It's a nice little pattern. It's also just a giant advertisement for them. You're walking around advertising. You got that bag? Everybody can see that pattern. Ooh, is that a Coach? I think it's Coach and Louis Vuitton. Ooh, and they're advertising. If they didn't put that pattern on it, people would have to ask you about your bag. They don't want people to ask it. They want people to walk up, get close enough, see it, and then know. And then that way you're like, oh, I want one of those. And it's this brand. It's all about just brand. It's all about selling you a brand, making more money. Emphasis. So I talked about this earlier. Emphasis, breaking the pattern or introducing a variation can draw attention to specific elements. That's called an anomaly. So that's that change up. That's that, you know, like I said, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. Like so that means like when you're looking, you're like, well, why is there a circle? And then you put something important there. This pattern changes. I created an anomaly. And now we understand like, oh, I should look at this thing. In a sea of squares, there's a circle. It must mean something. Can I draw in black in there? Ooh, fun. So that's pretty cool. And then finally, your heritage. No matter where you're from, there's a cultural significance to some pattern within your background. I don't care who you are. If you dig deep enough and look far enough, you'll find it. Everywhere. It's like no matter what. It is something that resonates. When people are creating apparel, I will say apparel for the most part, there's that learning curve. Like if somebody said, make me a square sheet of fabric. Well, the first thing you're gonna do is freak out. Second thing, you're gonna learn how to do it. Third thing you're gonna do is make it a plain one. And you're gonna make a bunch of plain pieces of fabric until you're like, this is boring. I'm gonna do something different. Then you may make it colors. But then you're like, well, I wonder if like halfway through, if I change the color, what will happen? And then what if I do this and this? And then you start making a pattern. So it evolves over time. And it really goes back to who is the artist. And what we do is we're influenced by the nature around us. So if you look at a lot of pattern, it reflects into the nature, and that nature is reflective as to the flora of fauna within our country origin. You know, like I was trying to think of something really obscure, like hummingbirds, but they're all over the place. No, but I think they're only North and South Americas are only hummingbirds. I don't think they're in Europe. So like we might have hummingbirds in our patterns or an abstract hummingbird, but they might not be in Europe because they don't know what a hummingbird is. They didn't grow up with that for thousands of years. They didn't have that. All right. Love this one. This is so much fun. It's a pattern. It's an anomaly. It's a triple pattern. It's a breakup of pattern. I think it's really cool. Done in 1980. Very cool. Very cool time. I like the 80s. And it is 3 layers. We have red star. So it's red, 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 red. And then we have the blue, 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 blue. And then in the middle, white. So as you can see, they're not evenly spaced. It's a group of 3, a group of 3, a group of 3, a group of 3, and a group of 3. And then that group is then shifted to here. You know, it's shifted over. And then it's back out. So it was, somebody found out if they took these 3 and then started the breaking apart, they could get, you know, a star on a star on a star. I started in the wrong area when I started that star. I started on red, but I switched to blue. And it's just like so cool, so beautiful. I love doing stuff like this. This is like, I did a logo recently and I sat there. That's too big. And it was dealing with 3 circles. And I was like moving the circles and like figuring out how these interacted and how they change to get it perfect and like all this kind of fun stuff. And then knowing like, oh, you can then, you know, if I repeated this, how does it repeat? And like, how does it stack and where can I go with it if I offset it and all this kind of stuff. And I really had a great time with it. And that was really cool. This guy. I think it's NG. I don't know what it's for, but I love it. So it's this, right? And then we have here, and then we flipped one, and we have one here, and then we turned it on its side, and then here we have them coming down, and it flipped. And so they almost created like a puzzle using one piece. And as we can see, it starts with heart. So the very top thing, subliminal heart, hidden in there. But then you follow these, and they go around and around, and we're like, oh, and then it goes down, and then we go across, and then we, you know, like this is all a weird pattern set up to help us like start with a heart and come down to get the information. The anomaly here, the circle. The piece that they use is part of their logo. And it's done so simply and so beautifully And then like it could be divided. So it's also a grid. And it's all based on a circle with a little extension on it. I think it's so cool. So it's like this is like pattern and repetition at the same time, different things. I always include this crazy wallpaper. This is what I talk about, like that repeating pattern. How do you get it to do it infinite? And where does it start? And where does it stop? This one's pretty linear, but it's all based on stuff from that air, from the flora, from the fauna. Like these are leaves and flowers and buds and like stuff that people know. And it becomes a pattern, and it becomes maybe a cultural pattern. Just over time. People like it. Oh, you can do that? Like, oh, I didn't know we could do that. And then you do it, and then everybody's like, oh, I love that. You could do that. And it's like, it really kind of only takes one person to like really change it and invent it and change it. Good. Yeah, God. White headphone cords, white earbuds, white. That's newish. That's back growing up. You didn't see white electronics. They were gray or black. And then as we got rid of electronics, it could be handheld. We got a white phone. And then, okay, so then you can get your white phone. And this is a physical product, but it like even like cultural changes, you know, it affects that. And design is design. Is then I'm like, oh, we'll pay more for a color now. Like, oh, for a long time, everything was just white. Here's repetition in a design to help you understand that when you go, every time you turn the page, I know exactly where all the information is, and I can conveniently just look through this catalog, and I don't even have to think about like looking around. I go through the catalog and I see the color is their name. Attributes down below. I'm just saying attributes. I don't know what this is really about. Great. You know, we have this little thing coming in, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Object, object, person, object, object, person, object, object, person. We have a little color area, like every page, exactly the same. And then they just went through. We need this person's information. The only thing that changes, the only anomaly is maybe where they put the name. They couldn't put the name here because if they put it here, it was too dark. Here they shifted it over because they had a nice clean area. You know, like they're moving it so you could read that name that way. But it is a design based on a pattern. This is something, you know, the pamphlet you're creating is too small for this. But it's something to think about moving forward when you do multi-page documents of like, you know, will make it easy if I create a repeating pattern. Then with that repeating pattern, I can keep it consistent, and I can have a design base. And I love designing like that. It just doesn't make it easier, but it actually, for me, it adds to like the complexity of developing the design. Like, how can I make every picture fit in that frame wonderfully and design wise? So, and it all comes down to our final is websites and your phone and blogs and like all those things. Now everything is based on this formatting, and it's a pattern. It needs to fit. I should put a phone on this, you know, like we got our phone screen, so we read our phone except when we're watching TV up and down, and then we put in our image, we put it in a square. But now they're starting to offer the rectangle, I think, you know, like the taller rectangle, fill more space. But when we scroll through, it's just square after square after square after square. And this is like a funny like design. But if you look at this page to this page to this page, look at that design consistency. It's all square. This rectangle is this rectangle. It's evenly spaced in 4. Oh, what do we do here? Rectangles. And they're like really geometrically spaced, and like even in this little thing right there. And then we leave it, and it's like more of these like perfect squares, perfectly spaced. using that space. And even though it may not seem like a pattern or a pattern and repetition, it is repetition. It is completely repetition. So there we go. All right, next up. Let's see what we got. Or if there's any questions, but nobody's here. Let's see what we got to do today. And again, as we roll out on 14 and 15, just like I did in 13, we are not, I'll talk about it. I'm letting you go. It's freedom. Freedom. All right, we're going to use InDesign for this one. Just follow the rules. Find your book cover, your movie poster, your album cover. Remember, no repeats. 1960s. Oh, this is an easy one. Pattern and repetition. 1960s book covers. They did this all over the place. Look at this. Isn't that awesome? Like, even this is repetition. What? Look at it. Just dig through it. You'll find what you need. It's an easy one. So even movie posters will be pretty easy. Not movie. Minion movies. I'm really curious about this. Austin Power, Man of Mystery, but it's Big Boy. I guess I don't know the Big Boy reference. Oh, what is this display metal poster? Repetition. Boom, head. Look at this one. Very easy to read. They sectioned it out. Repetition. These lines aren't part of the background. They put those in for a reason. Oh, yeah. So you can find it. I know you can do it. All right, and then for the pattern, easy peasy, 3 and 3. In Illustrator, I want 3 color patterns, 3 shape patterns, and 3 typography patterns. You may be saying, well, Joel, isn't the shape and color could be fairly similar? Well, yeah, yeah. Use shape for one, but use color. Use color as the main emphasis point is what I want you to do. Sorry. For color, your artwork here, use, color is the main emphasis here. This is supposed to say shape. I will re-upload this one. And I'm going to do it not like this second, but I'll re-upload that. So it says shape. My bad. So that's supposed to be shape and then typography. So color as the main source of repetition or pattern. A shape. So if it's squares, rectangles, triangles, and then typography. Just words. Words. So that's what you need to do. Have some fun. Like I said, I'll re-upload this one immediately after this. So again, let me know. Let me know if you got questions, comments, concerns, everything. Get back to me. If I hit you up on something, I will get back to you. Yeah. Rolling out, almost done. So great. Let's finish out with a bang, and I will talk to you again on Thursday. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.